I'm your host, Jason Tartick, and welcome to Trading Secrets. We talk all things money on this podcast, and we're teaching all the stuff we just weren't taught in the classroom. Nothing supports this show more than liking, commenting, and of course, subscribing. Welcome back to another episode of Trading Secrets. Today, we are joined by entrepreneur, social media influencer, former public relations professional, and current reality TV personality on Bravo's Summer House, Lindsay Hubbard. Lindsay joined the cast of Summer House when it debuted back in 2017 and is one of the 4 main cast members who has been on every episode of the show, which follows a group of friends who share a house in the Hamptons throughout the summer. After 8 seasons, a 9th that just filmed this summer, and 117 episodes later, Lindsay has solidified her leading role on the hit reality show. From that, she's been able to leverage her platform into other lucrative career opportunities, including a new real estate endeavor here in Nashville, Tennessee. We are going to touch on all things Summer House, how filming season 9 was after ending her engagement with Carl, and how she's getting ready for her new baby, how it will impact her career, how she's even preparing for it financially, all the trading secrets. Lindsay, thank you so much for being on the show.
We have a lot to talk about.
We have a lot to talk about, and we are doing it in a short period of time.
We sure are.
Because you got a wedding to go to. Are you a bridesmaid?
I'm not a bridesmaid,
okay,
which I'm happy about.
Yeah.
You know, less responsibility.
Well, that's for
but it
sure.
is one of my really good girlfriends, and I was very happy she chose Nashville.
Yeah, I love it.
I love it here, obviously.
Country Music Hall of Fame. You know what? This is a whole sidebar here, but it is, we talk about money on this show. The cost of like being in a wedding or being a bridesmaid these days, it's gotten, these bachelorette parties, $5,000.
No, it's a lot.
People are spending money like crazy.
No, it's crazy. And the new trend is to get, destination weddings.
Yeah.
Is like this is my 6th wedding this year.
Wow.
And I think it's my last for a little while.
Okay.
But yeah, 6 weddings in 1 year, all destination. None of them were in New York.
I'll tell you what, you're going to have to keep these episodes, the deals.
Yeah.
You're going to need more Nashville, national real estate. One last question I got on this wedding. I always talk about this. I don't know, like, what is the barometer for a gift these days? Like, what are you giving as a gift?
I know.
wedding?
You know what? I have this conversation a lot. A lot of people don't really do these traditional registries, and you can just donate to their honeymoon or honey fund or whatever it's called, or just write them a check or Venmo. It's like, it's more of cash registries these days as opposed to like actual gifts. Like, no longer are we gifting the bride pots and pans so that they can cook in the kitchen all day, every day for their husbands. But I don't know. I think if it is an overseas destination wedding, like your presence is enough. You're spending enough money, like thousands of dollars to attend that wedding. Yep. So I don't really know. The barometer, there's a range.
Okay, are you going with your boyfriend?
I am going with my boyfriend,
you're going with your boyfriend, so you're going with a couple. You go to this wedding, each couple on average, and then we're moving right into the good stuff. What do you think the average dollar amount on this wedding people would pay?
would say, depending on how close you are, right? If you're not super close, and I would say maybe like $250 as like a cash check, donation, registry, honeymoon, whatever. So I would say the lowest $250, and then if you're really close, maybe $500.
Okay. All right. There we go.
Is that fair?
That's fair. A $250.
I don't know. What do you do?
I think that's right.
Am I off?
No, I think you're right on. I also think the area matters. Like, as weird as it is, like, I know New York City weddings. Like, I talk to people what they're gonna give, and it's like, it's a lot.
Right.
It's a lot. Then you go to weddings like where I grew up in Buffalo, and it's like nothing. It's like, I think it depends on the location too.
Totally. Yeah. Like, I went to a Portugal wedding. I went to a wedding in Italy. I went to a wedding in Mexico.
Yeah.
Those weddings, I'm sorry. You're just lucky that I'm here.
I love it. Lindsay Hubbard is gracing her with your presence, and she's doing that on this show here right now. All right. We saw a quote from you, future Summer House. I would be on Summer House until I was 100. You started back. That was a quote from you. You started back in 2017. The seasons, I think for you, you've had this like wild roller coaster of the best seasons,
been insane.
The worst seasons, the best seasons. After looking at your time on this, over 100 episodes, what is your take on what it's done for your career and finances?
Ooh, I mean, it's kind of wild, right? Because we didn't really know where this show was going to go at all. To be honest with you, like, it started with mine and Kyle's group of friends. You know, the casting directors, the producers, the executive producers, the creators, they found our group, and we were already doing this lifestyle, going to the Hamptons, sharing a house together. Kyle and I had met, 2 years prior to when we started filming. I met him at his house in the Hamptons in Montauk on Memorial Day weekend in 2014. So it was a lifestyle we were already living. I just wanted to pay my student loans off. I think at that point in time, in 2016, when we started filming, I was like still like $30,000 in debt of student loans. And I was like, shit, like PR does not make any money.
It's a tough industry.
I was like, why would I choose the career that just does not make any money?
Well,
but
let's
of course,
stop right there to interrupt. How much money can you make in PR? Or were you making in New York City PR?
Yeah, PR is very top heavy. I started out.
What does that mean? Like the people at the top?
Like the people at the top,
Okay.
the owners, the VPs,
Sure.
and also, if you work at a more corporate PR firm or if you're doing crisis PR, or if you are working in pharmaceutical PR, there's more money at those big corporate PR firms than the more lifestyle boutique PR firms, which is where I found that I fit in the best.
Okay.
So like my first job in PR, straight out of college, 2008, financial crisis, but that didn't really matter, like either way, just in general. Back then, I was making $28,000 a year in New York City.
$28,000 in PR.
I look back on those days and I was like, how did I survive? So then you slowly work your way up. And then I think by the time I started Summer House, so we filmed it 2016, it aired 2017. I was making, I think, $100,000 in PR. But that's because I owned my PR firm.
Big difference.
So I gave myself that salary.
Yeah.
And then just put all the pressure to like make sure that I had the clients to pay my own salary.
Yeah.
But it's a jump from 2008 to 2016, 8 years, from 28,000 to 100,000. Sure.
Yeah.
But in New York City, we also get, can I curse on this show?
You can say whatever you
Oh,
want.
okay, good. We get absolutely fucked with taxes.
Oh, you get crushed.
It's crushed.
With having a house here, you should make this place your permanent residence.
Well, I would love to, but then I'd have to spend 6 months in one day in Nashville. And
you're like,
it's a little difficult.
Priorities. I looked it up. $28,000 in 2008 is equivalent to purchasing power today of $41,000. So it gives you an idea of the PR space. I want to get into Summer House. Before I do, though, I think the PR space is interesting. Tell me about when you owned the company. Who were the clients you're working with? And then I think people would be interested in like, what is an average retainer that some of these clients would pay?
Totally. Most of my clients were hospitality accounts. So restaurants, lounges, bars, clubs, hotels in New York City. I also had different lifestyle consumer goods brands. Like I had a baby stroller client at one point, and then various fashion beauty brands. So anything that was a brand. I never represented a person or did personal PR unless it was, kind of pushing the CEO or founder in front of the brand for business stories.
And those brands on average would pay how much a month?
So because I was more of a boutique PR firm, but I was also really good, and you got me, you didn't get an assistant.
Sure.
Like you're getting my experience.
Yeah.
I would say my lowest retainer was around 4,000 to 5,000.
Okay, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's
and
good.
then
highest
I would say was probably 6,000 or 7,000.
And how long do they sign for?
I had a minimum of 6 months, just because when you're working with like long lead, like pitching your clients for like long lead media placements, especially back then when actually we had print outlets that people read. Yeah, it takes a little bit of time, and you have to, there is this process where you have to gear up and like understand your client and engulf yourself in the brand, and then be able to speak to it and pitch it and come up with different strategies for the next 6 months.
Interesting. All right, we're going to touch on how owning a PR company has helped you with PRs. You manage your PR and some of the crises that may have come up. Before we do that, I want everyone a little background. All my people from Bravo, we have a great relationship with those people. When people come on the show, I always make sure they can share numbers, but I know certain things you contractually can't share. We'll try and skirt around it and be respectful of Bravo here. So, but that's how much I wanted you here, even though I know that you couldn't share too many numbers. But let me ask you this, get like roundabouts here. You're in $30,000 of debt. You're starting this brand new show with this brand new network. You don't have TV experience at this point. Can you make in that season enough to pay that $30,000 off?
Yes, I was able to pay.
Yeah, and that first, so you can make enough in the first season to pay that off. All right.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? You give me a little gray area here.
Totally,
Okay.
yeah. I was able to pay those student loans off. I don't know if I did it like right away or it might have taken like a year and a half, but yes, I was able to make the student loan money.
That's a PR answer from a PR powerhouse. All right, let me ask you this. I think there's a lot of people that listen to this. You're like, yeah, my friends could have a show too because we are funny and wild. Like, why do you think, and Kyle's a good friend, you know, he's a maniac. What is it about the group that a network like Bravo's like, yeah, these are our people? Like, how did that happen?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think because everyone can relate to different people for different reasons, right? Yeah. You know, like I might be, and Kyle and I joke about this all the time. Like he's like an alpha Leo male. I'm an alpha Leo female. We butt heads. We get back together, you know, but we also are both off the wall in very different ways. And then you have, you know, all of these different personalities that other viewers are relating to. Not everyone's going to relate to me. Not everyone's going to like me. Not everyone is going to understand, you know, the way I react or the way I think or perceive things, but they might understand Amanda or Sierra or Paige. So it's interesting, I think, you know, when you take like very, very different personalities, but also, you know, a lot of us do have similarities and goals that it just works, and it works with our show. We also like have the ability, unlike some of these other shows, like if you take a couple of these Housewives franchises, for example, like they're rebooting them because these arguments and like they're just not able to get through and move on and move forward. From some of the drama.
There's no resolve. You need the story arc, and there's no story.
And it's just
they
like
all hate each other.
Crushing some of these shows, whereas we are able to, it might take a couple of years, but we're actually able to resolve some of our drama and or move forward from it.
That makes sense. Logistically, I want to talk about the inner workings of it. What I found interesting, I went to one of your filmings. It was so good to see you.
I know, that was so random.
Yeah, so random.
Well, but so fun.
I own a talent agency, right? And we work a lot with Amanda. We work with Kyle. We've done deals with a lot of the cast. We work with Jesse. And so we were connecting with Kyle. I was like, dude, you guys got to come. So we're just like, all right, let's come. What I found the most fascinating thing was how unproduced it was.
Yeah.
Okay. And like, so like,
I know. I was like, what do you guys want me to do? Where am I going?
What is going on here? Cameras are rolling. You guys are just sitting there talking. Like, what? And so I've been on, you know, I've probably, whether you're cast or like a guest or whatever, I've probably been on the set now of maybe like 10, 12 different reality shows. I've never seen anything like this show where it's just like, yeah, you guys just like eat, talk, and chill. Is that how it always is? Or is there some more production value that maybe just because we're in the public we didn't see?
I mean, we pretty much go into our weekends, right? Like we might talk to our producers and be like, you know, hey, I'm feeling this weekend. I want to, you know, get this off my chest. Or, you know, you'll have those conversations beforehand, but when you're actually in it, like no one needs to go and tell me, hey, you need to go have a conversation with this person.
Interesting.
Because I already know I want to have a conversation. So it's kind of like you work together as a team between, you know, at least on our show, our producers take a very like hands-off approach because it should be organic and it should be like my true feelings. I don't need a producer to overproduce how I'm feeling. I already know how I'm feeling and I'm able to articulate that.
That makes sense.
But yeah, it's fun because, you know, it's a Saturday night, it's during the day. We're in Montauk, like, you know, Kyle's going to go DJ. Everyone's drinking. Obviously I was drinking mocktails, but I'm still having a great time.
Yeah.
and you're having like serious conversations in the middle of all this fun. And then you're like, okay, now let's go dance and party.
The best part was like once Jesse came over, he was with someone. I'm not going to say this someone because I don't want to spoil anything. And so I just started asking him questions. And I'm asking him everything. I'm like, so when did you guys meet? How often do you guys have sex? What's your love language? Like we were in the weeds.
I know.
And they were mic'd. He's like, yo, you better be careful. Like cameras are rolling here. I'm like, oh shit, I didn't sign anything. I don't want to be on this. But I have a question about like when I was thinking about those questions and I think about the way you guys do producing, you are making income off social media, right? 691,000 followers on Instagram. You're making income off the show. You got your house too. Do you find, I feel like when you're in a show like that as a main character, part of your business strategy has to be, I need to be vocal. I need to be polarizing. I still need to be me. But if I'm vanilla, I'm bringing no show value. There's another business aspect of you that must be like, especially PR, if I ruin my reputation doing the things I need to do to bring ratings, I also will take a massive hit with income outside the show. Is that something that you think through? And if so, how do you balance it?
So I don't know if it's fortunately or unfortunately for me. I just sort of accidentally step in shit and like it creates story. A lot of it is not manufactured, calculated, or like pre-thought of in my mind of like, okay, I need to make a good TV show. Like for me, it's always been like, this is me naturally, organically.
Yeah.
And with the understanding that it's not going to work for everyone. And it doesn't. Like I just naturally am a polarizing person. I think off TV. And I've had so many friends, good friends that have been in my life since before TV that they're like, I'm so happy you didn't change. Like this is the Lindsay that I've always known. But yeah, as you start, kind of like gaining seasons under your belt, you start realizing like, oh shit, like this could affect other businesses I have going on, other brands I have, so you do want to keep it in line just a little bit and not like go and cancel yourself.
Sure.
But yeah, I think that's more of a thought once you're like, gaining years under your belt. But
okay, that makes sense. How is social media income been for you?
It's gotten better. It was a slow build. I mean, really,
what's a
like
slow build? Give me some.
I would say
numbers here.
2020,
Okay.
COVID, pandemic times was like really the jump where people were like, transitioning to social media and brand campaigns because everyone's at home, right? So how do you capture your audience? And no one could go anywhere. So I think from there, on the social media side, I don't know how many brands I worked with, maybe like 5 over the course of like 2020.
Okay.
But each year since then, I have probably increased by, at least 30 to 40%.
Wow. So 2020, back in your day, PR, you're making 28K. 2020 in social media influencing, you're making more or less than 28K.
I was making more.
Okay. As you're moving up and up, you're 100K at the PR firm. Have you broken the 100K mark on an annual basis in social media?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, I love it. And then you're like,
but I mean, it also depends.
You're like by a long shot.
Well, no, but I think like I'm like the sporty girl, so I can work with like different, athleisure or athletic brands. I'm, also can be the girly girl. I'm really into makeup, but I'm like not as like awesome at hair. I'm, there's just different facets and elements to my personality that I think, at one point I was about to get married. So I was able to like work with different, bridal brands.
Yeah.
Now I can work with different baby brands, and that's a whole different market.
Totally.
That opens me up. So it's really just dependent on where I'm at in my life and like, how relatable I am and what I can do with that. It also depends, I think, if you have a manager, you have a team, or you have an agent, because that always helps.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get really like savvy and you start honing in on who are you and what do you stand for?
Yeah.
Like I'm working with a sandwich brand, like a big national sandwich chain right now. And obviously I'm working with sandwiches because I have this like legendary sandwich line that came out when I was drunk one night on season 5.
It's amazing how those things happen.
Yeah. So for me, it's like, let me monetize,
exactly.
my idiocy and like drunken words. Like, why not make money from that?
100%.
Or like my pregnancy announcement.
Yeah.
It was an announcement I was already going to make.
It was blue.
People were very torn up about this.
Clear blue. Yeah. Why were they torn up about that? Because they're just
saying like, I can't believe she like monetized her pregnancy announcement. And it's like, why not? I'm gonna make the announcement anyway.
Yeah.
Why not make money from it?
In a deal like that,
I used Clear Blue. I used the digital test to begin with. Like that was the test I used.
Yeah.
Like back in April when I found out I was pregnant. So why not go to them and say, hey, I used your test. I'm about to announce my pregnancy. Do you want to sponsor this?
Yeah, totally. It's such a fine line in this space, right? Of like, hey, this is how I make money. Like, so like, I don't tell you to not go to your job and do your work.
Right.
I share my information. And as a result, there's an opportunity to monetize things organically products I use. Like that's what I do. There's this other thing that I think people are saying like, oh, something like that is so special, you shouldn't intertie it. And it's like it's this constant balance in our world that's so hard. And you do what you want to do and forget about the noise. Who cares what they say?
This is how I'm making my money. I'm not doing PR anymore. I'm not sitting behind a desk.
That money's for the child that's coming out.
No, literally. And my expenses just got a whole lot more.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine. When you structure a deal like that with Clear Blue, they're getting a massive moment. That's a massive moment for you. As a result of that, does your rate increase?
Yeah, because that was by far the biggest announcement of my entire life.
Was it the biggest deal you've ever done?
At that point, I think it was the biggest deal.
Okay.
Yes. I tied another deal that I had done in the spring.
Was it more or less than what you made your first year PR at $28K?
More.
Let's go. We love that. All right, we're rocking and rolling. A question I got for you. You are a businesswoman, an entrepreneur, a real estate owner, a reality star, all those things. When you go into the negotiation process, there are a ton of statistics I can rattle off of women in business and women in their careers that just aren't negotiating as well right now. And it's an area that we are closing that wage and pay gap. It's being closed. I have a theory. Not only is it going to close, it's going to flip. You've been able to do it very successfully. With the show or even with real estate, how are you and what are you doing to determine your value year to year? You've been doing this since 2017 to then go negotiate with the network, to then go negotiate for these deals. Any tips or tricks for the listeners? Because majority of the listeners are women 22 to 44.
Okay. Yeah. I think doing market research first and foremost is probably like you want to get a pulse of like what your peers and other people in your position are making, for whatever deal you're working on. So I think like just like polling your friends, polling, different peers in your respective industries, but also, I think not being afraid to walk away.
Yeah.
Whether that's for like a deal or, or anything else. Like I'm not afraid to say no.
Yeah.
I also just have an extra added layer, I think, of confidence in my negotiations. A, I live in New York City. B, I've worked in a male dominated field pretty much my whole life in hospitality. So like my whole life, I've had to literally convince men of like why I need, to be at certain levels.
Yeah.
That gave me a lot of training to be able to be a tougher negotiator.
I love that.
So, but yeah, I think going into any negotiation with confidence.
Yeah.
And like really truly understanding your self-worth and then arming yourself with the education and knowledge of market research and what your peers are making.
It's brilliant advice. With feedback like that, though, you're just setting me up to ask this. I have to ask it then. Do you do market research with your other peers? Like, do you know how much the other castmates are making on Summer House?
On other shows? On Summer House?
Like, do you talk to them about? Do you guys talk about?
I know how much they're making because me, Kyle, and Carl like set the tone. Like we are the ones.
So you guys negotiate together?
Okay, so because I don't know how to. I'm like gonna try to like put it in terms that is like really makes sense. So because we started the show together, we're at the same level.
Like seniority, kind of.
Sure, you can call it seniority, but like, you know, what I'm making season 9, someone who is going to be at season 9 next year, they're going to make what me, Kyle, and Carl make. Let's say.
So like a Jesse Solomon comes in and he'll get paid? So
Jesse Solomon, this was his second year.
Yeah.
He's making what me, Kyle, and Carl made our second year.
Gotcha. I thought you were saying he's making what you're making now. I'm like, that's crazy. Okay.
Or like, let's say Sierra, I think she started on season 5. We just finished it. So she's 4 years in.
Yeah.
Her 4th season, she's making what me, Kyle, Carl made our 4th season.
I heard a rumor that if you make it the 3rd season, you're kind of in. Is that true?
I don't know.
And
I mean,
them, like it's a big jump to the 3rd season.
It wasn't that big of a jump.
Okay. What about like,
we've had higher jumps.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of people go in and out of the show, like an Olivia Flowers, right? Like, how are career and business decisions made on people like that?
I think it really depends. This has happened a couple of times on our show too, where you're, you know, some people you're like, I don't know if they're going to make it. And then other people you're like, whoa,
too, right?
How did that happen? Yeah, I think it just is a very different and specific formula that they're looking for with reality TV. Like, are you going to be open with your life?
Okay.
Are you going to share like some of these really tough, difficult things that most people find hard and difficult to talk about?
Yeah.
You know, like I have to constantly remind myself all the time that like it is not very normal for the average person to share as much as like we are pretty much trained to share about our lives.
Therapists literally their skin crawls when they're like, protect your privacy.
Yeah.
When like, this is your life is literally putting yourself in mental warfare.
No,
like,
100%. And like it can have its downsides. Look at, you know, my breakup was probably one of the most humiliating moments that publicly happened to me on national television, and you know, became one of the most public moments, breakups on Bravo. So at least in the, you know, recent years, next to Ariana and Tom Sandoval. But you know, so there is risk involved when you do share a lot of who you are. But I think as far as the formula of what people are looking for in a cast member on a reality show, especially on Bravo, like number one, you just have to be open.
Yeah. This is a question I imagine you never got before. And it's one that's like very tied to the show. Because I'd never like to get into like the drama, the breakups. That's not our show. But with the breakup, when you look at like your actual business, do you, especially being in PR, do you think the breakup financially and trajectory hurt or helped your career?
I think personally, I have always operated better for myself, whether it was on the show or social media brand campaigns, solo. I've always operated better solo.
Gotcha.
On the show, I've always been better as single Lindsay or, you know, Lindsay, like I have a boyfriend this season on the show, but I'm there by myself. And like, it's a different side of me. But I just have always operated better solo. So I don't know if I can really like say, oh, I got more deals or I made more money or I did this better because of the breakup. I just think in general, I've always operated solo. After my breakup, 2 months later, I was in Nashville looking at houses and, you know, that whole process went quicker. I don't think I would have done that in that relationship. I wouldn't have bought a house, turned it into an Airbnb and short-term rental property to then start making money, you know, a few months after that.
That's interesting. All right. It's all about like kind of what works for you and rolling with the punches. I know we got a wrap here in just a minute.
What, already?
But we are here, and this has been a fascinating episode. Quickly on the Airbnb. That's a big topic in Nashville. Can you give us just a little background of it and like the success of it? Like, is it cash flowing well? What are the struggles? What are the things that you didn't expect? Just the business breakdown of your Airbnb.
Yeah. So I came to Nashville. I started coming in October, and then I came in last November, went to the CMA Awards. Might or might not have had a date or two while I was in town.
Anyone we would know?
There's been a lot of talk about it.
Why don't you talk about it on Trade Secrets?
Well, because you don't talk about those things. Yeah.
That's PR. It's always hard interviewing someone from PR.
Well, you're the one who said, I'm just using your words, man. Yeah. So went to go look at houses, and then by Thanksgiving of last year, made an offer on the house.
How much?
It was a good, probably my salary.
Okay.
I'm trying to like think about it in terms of like my summer house salary. Yeah, I made an offer. I'm not going to tell you how much, but I will tell you that I won the offer.
Love that.
I beat out another couple or whoever else had put an offer in. And then by, the end of December, I was closing on it. By January, I was designing it. February, I was installing it.
Yeah.
And by March, I started renting it out. So I've really only been renting it out since March. We're in September, almost October now.
Yeah.
It's been about 6 months.
Yeah.
And it has slowly but surely increased depending on the market and what's going on in Nashville.
Because I was going to go with like the purchase price and all that. I was going to try and do the calculations to see if are you cash flowing positively monthly with your mortgage? Is the income you're making more than the mortgage and the expenses?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm able to pay off my mortgage and then also dedicate a certain amount of money to my New York City rent.
Okay,
because I'm still in that apartment.
Yeah, hell yeah.
That everyone was so concerned about the price tag of my rent, and I am supplementing the price tag of that rent with my Nashville house.
For the people that haven't heard about it, can you tell people how much that rent was?
Well, it was $13,000 a month.
Yeah.
And I was so lucky, like when I decided to stay in the apartment and renew my lease for one more year, I had a discussion with my landlord, and she is a badass entrepreneur, by the way.
Let's have her on too.
Yeah, no, you should. Literally, she's a big deal, which I love, right? But I think that's why we get along, me and her. So she actually reduced my rent for me.
Hell yeah.
So it's no longer $13,000 a month.
Cool.
It is a little less than that, but again, I supplement some of that rent
from Nashville.
That
is a trading secret in itself. Lindsay, as we're wrapping up the last topic, I have to ask, congratulations.
Thank you.
Preparing for finances with a child. First and foremost, when you think about your career, will you be on Summer House next year for season 10?
I mean, I hope so. I don't know in what capacity.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is a big life change. And it's no longer just me involved. It's like by next summer, my daughter will be 7-8 months old.
Yeah.
So I can't exactly go live in the house every weekend in a party house.
Yeah.
So I don't know what we're going to do. I know that we're talking about it, and we're trying to figure out what we're doing with Lindsay as far as the next steps, but I don't know quite what's going to happen with Summer House. We'll see.
Okay, we'll see. And anything you're doing financially or money related to start preparing for the child?
I mean, I'm trying to take on as many social media brand campaigns as possible.
Yeah.
And just continuing to show up as, a team player on reality TV. Because maybe if there is no more Summer House for me, maybe there's something else.
Yeah.
I think I've spent 9 seasons now proving myself to be as dynamic as I possibly can, in order to set myself up and continue my career beyond, partying in the Hamptons.
I love it.
Hopefully we figure it out together. Come on, Bravo.
In some capacity, you're going to be there and you're going to be killing it. The last thing I got for you is like, I always remember, I've always gone I've been back and forth with this because I think about just how you grow as a human. To stay in one lane wouldn't do justice for yourself, right? Like you grow, you change, you think. And there's a time I was like very traditional, like, oh, I hope I get married and then have kids. And I'm like, oh, I would just have kids. I don't need to be married. And then I'm like, I would just be lucky to even have a healthy child at this point, right? So I've changed so much from that. And a question I have for you is, are you content with what this is? Or do you feel pressure to be like, I should be married now that I'm going to have the child? Or what's your overall take on that? Because I think so many people go through that right now.
Totally. No, I don't feel the pressure to be married. I also, similar to you and your mindset and mental journey of like how this was all going to pan out, very similar as to what you said, like thought it was all going to happen in a traditional way. Always had like that idea of this fairy tale of like engagement, marriage, babies, in that order. And then shit hit the fan last year and everything became unknown. And I was, basically dumped at the altar like 2 months out from getting married. And I was like, well, shit, like what does my life look like? Now, I think I was always forcing a path that the universe was like, no.
Yeah.
And then the universe decided this was going to be my path.
Right.
And it's definitely out of order.
Yeah.
I started dating my boyfriend in January and found out we were pregnant in April,
Yeah.
3 months later. So that's kind of like, holy, whoa, what just happened here? I mean, we all know how babies are made, but spoiler alert. But yeah, it was, at that point in time when I found out I was pregnant, I was like, yo,
yeah.
let's just take everything else off the table. Like, I am not at all thinking about getting engaged or, getting married. That is the last thing on my mind.
Yeah.
And I'm not even thinking about moving in together right now.
Yeah.
That is just like, I think that we live in a modern world. This is what the universe wanted. It wanted me to have a child first, and here we are. Let's not put the pressure on the relationship in any other way.
Yeah.
And I'm just sort of like taking it in stride and seeing what happens. Like, do I really hope that there is the word forever attached with my relationship?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. I wouldn't be in it otherwise.
Yeah.
But what last year taught me is that I'm a little bit more realistic about relationships. And, I was like just about there and then it all blew up. So I wouldn't say I have like trust issues when it comes to, the longevity of relationships, but I would say I'm definitely more realistic and wear that lens, but I also am a very strong girl and, I operate very independently. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't really know what my path is. I'm just sort of letting the universe figure it out because the universe did not like when I was trying to force it. But I think for those of us on Bravo, like this seems to be more of the direction we go in anyway. If you look at half the cast of Vanderpump, Sheena and Brock, like they had Summer Moon before they were married. Exactly. Lala just had her second baby from a sperm donor. So I think we need to somehow figure out as a society to get rid of these ideals and of what is conventional and what is traditional. Like that just doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. When we try and force the order gets completely put in disarray. And sometimes the order will just work out. Like there's only so much you can control in this life. And it feels like the more you're trying to control the uncontrollables, the more things don't work out in your favor. Right. So,
and like, it truly is like, what if this was always meant to be my fairy tale? Yeah. I've been very, very open and clear my, whole Summer House career, like almost every season talking about how I really want to have a family. My ultimate goal was always to have a family. Yeah. So like, now I got it. You got it. At least the start of it. Yep. And I think the rest will but it'll just fall into place.
It'll fall into place. Well, Lindsay, we will definitely have you back. I got a million more questions for you, but this was a beautiful, I'm not even going to call it warm up. This was like an unbelievable table full of awesome entrees with a little bit of a meal. We're going to get more of the meal and dessert next time, but we got to wrap up with a trading secret. So something that someone couldn't learn from a professor, a textbook, or a TikTok tutorial only through your career life. It could be money. It could be life, whatever you got. It's just special to you, your trading secret.
Okay. I think people, and it's the most simple trading secret.
Okay.
But we often overlook it and we forget about it. But it is to follow your gut in anything and everything that you do, and especially in your career. Mm-hmm. A lot of times when you're trying to figure out where your career is going, or if there's a fork in the road, or if it's changing, like you have to truly listen to your inner monologue and what your gut is telling you. Yeah. I also think secondary trading secret, just don't be afraid to say no. Yeah. Like you have your integrity and your integrity alone, and just self-respect and self-worth and just understanding that it is okay to say no, because in the end, it'll all work out.
Yeah, and the times you do say yes become that more valuable, right? Because there's a power in yes. And I completely agree. Trust your gut. And I also think something I've been thinking about lately is like when your gut's speaking to you, as opposed to reacting, like respond to really understand dig into the gut. Why it's telling me something. Let's really understand it. And I think
truly the times that I've gone wrong were the times that I did not trust my gut. And I looked back, obviously hindsight, of course, 2020. But always. Every time I looked back, I was like, my gut told me one thing and I didn't listen to it. Yeah. And this is why I'm in this position. So
100%. Well, I kept you a little long, so we got to get you out of here. You got to go celebrate over a wedding. But Lindsay, thank you so much for being on Trading Secrets. Where can everyone find everything you have going on?
Instagram, Lynn's Hubs. Yep. You can rent my house if you want in Nashville.
Where can they find it?
Hubhousenashville.com. That's hub with 2 B's.
Okay.
Also have an Instagram, Hubhouse Nashville.
Sweet.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at so far.
Go check it out. You know what? Maybe one thing we're going to think about on Trading Secrets is doing a giveaway. Maybe we'll rent the house out for a weekend and give it to one of our lucky listeners. So let me talk to the team if we could pull that off.
Yeah, let's do it.
Off,
or we could do like a baby moon.
Yeah, baby moon party.
A baby moon at my Nashville house.
Let's go. Well, Lindsay, thank you so much for being on. Always a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Woo.